Thinking about self-publishing and don't know where to start? Join the Spa Girls each week for 30 minutes of honest advice, tips and resources. I'm Trudy J and I'm here with Wendy Valla.
Hello.
Cheryl Phipps.
Hi there.
And Shar Barrett.
Hi.
Hello and welcome to the 300th episode. Oh my God.
I'm amazed that you didn't have us dress up for this. Yeah. We didn't.
What was that about?
I'm at my mum's house and they've kicked me out of my own house and all of my party outfits are hidden at the back of the garage underneath all of the other stuff that's currently on top of it. So there was no way that I was going to be able to dress up in any form.
I think it's awesome that you're one of the few adults, in fact, if I'm honest, the only adult that I know that still has a dress-up box, Trudy. It's awesome.
I have my dress-up box. I mean, I do have a 10-year-old child, so I like to think it's her dress-up box rather than my dress-up box.
Sure.
But we know the truth. We actually know the truth.
Well, good. I'm glad that we understand.
How do we know the truth? How do we know the truth? Because we've been doing this for 5 years.
Exactly.
Yes,
which leads us on to the topic of the podcast.
Okay.
Yes. Pride and Perseverance is the name of the 300th episode of the Spa Girls podcast.
God, 300, and we still look so young.
I know. How did we do that?
Yeah.
I might be 6 years that we've been doing this.
It is coming up 6 years. October 2015 was our first one.
Yeah.
See, we started when we were 21. So
yeah. We're almost 30 now, right? Yeah.
It's a delight. So let's start with pride. We've got these two words that we kind of, and also a riff off Pride and Prejudice, but two words that we decided to use.
Is it? Wow.
Shut up. So we wanted to talk about pride and having pride, and so like pride in our work, loving our books. So
pride in a good way.
Yeah.
Not like we were told off for feeling prideful and that it was a bad thing.
Because in the movie or the book, clearly pride is a negative thing, and in fact often pride is considered kind of negative, especially in New Zealand, as we kind of have this thing about not being humble and not being too kind of prideful and show offy. But I think you want to love your books, you want to be proud of yourself, like take pride and make it into proud, and suddenly it's a be proud of what you've managed to achieve and what you've done, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the scope of it could be so varied, it kind of is for us as well, but it could be just finishing a book. That could be, I think that would be huge, but for us, we can see it, we can count it, we're living it every day.
And that's right.
I'm quite proud.
Yeah.
And when we started, I don't think either of us, four of us, any of us, just thought that we'd get this far. When we first started, I can remember the hideous first recordings, and we were just like, oh, this is never going to work.
We were so
End
nervous.
of story. We were so nervous. But, to have got 300 episodes is phenomenal in this day and age, because, how many podcasts are kicking around after 300
and also
episodes?
So each week, and we haven't repeated. I
No.
think that's even more. Like we don't. I noticed, and I get it, particularly if it's a single person doing it's a single host, that they have seasons. So they might have 8 or 10, and that's the season 1, and so then the next year they'll have season 2. But we're like the moon.
Perennial
we
evergreens.
come back every. We're there.
We're like fungus. You can't get rid of the mold that keeps coming back.
I was going to say roses. Those ones with the thorns.
I don't want to
that you
be
shop,
like it.
you hacked them to death in the winter, and they just
chronic illness.
There we go.
Chronic illness always comes
They
back.
keep coming back.
Well,
Go with positive association.
I associate our journey in the podcast because honestly, our first few podcasts were pretty horrendous.
I
don't know what you were talking about, Cher. We were perfect from the beginning.
As with our experience with writing, it's a journey. And we've got better, like from the first podcast to now, hopefully. That's how we see it anyway, as with writing our first book. To however many we've got now.
It feels more comfortable, but that's not to say that we still don't get nervous at times, and that we still don't maybe second guess ourselves occasionally. It's not like you suddenly got all your act together and everything's
That's right.
rosy.
Yeah.
I don't think that ever happens though, right? Like I think
No.
you might look at someone and think, oh God, they've got their act together. They haven't got their act together.
No,
They're just
all of
better
a
at
sudden.
pretending.
Yeah. I think also what's happened with our successes and we've actually got on to doing a bit of public speaking, and we were discussing that before, and we've done a few workshops and we've done a few, online things. And it's interesting how that's a flow for us now, and it's a fit and it works very well. And that's all probably due to how comfortable we are with each other, but also the podcast and the knowledge we've gained, on the podcast. I mean, we've had some truly spectacular guests on here, very inspirational, and we've been really lucky, that they've been willing to come on and share their knowledge with us, and then and also with you.
But it's that journey thing that Cheryl was talking about before, like, it's a process, and we've become more comfortable as time goes on, and and it's the same with writing, right? Like we started before we were ready, do you know what I mean? Like we started before we knew what hell we were doing, and we kept going and we persevered, and we didn't stop, even though we did, an episode where we all did a mistake or whatever, like there was ones where we had birds squawking in the background and fuzzy picture and dogs barking, and we just kept going. We just keep persevering and making it happen for us. And now, I mean, and those are the benefits now, that we can public speak much more easily than that we would have been able to, 6 years ago. And that's for all of us.
Do people know that we actually don't edit? I mean,
No,
we never
yeah,
edit. We never edit.
This is us.
This is us. We basically start and we finish. And what happens in the middle goes, you hear.
And I mean, part of that was just to lower the barrier to us getting stuff done, right? Like if we'd had to edit, it would have taken time, but actually what it's done is it made us far more able to be off the cuff, just kind of keep things going. It gives you that ability to just almost, what do they call it, when they get up on stage and the actors have to just improv. A little bit better improvisation. So I think that's really been good for us as individuals.
Because we weren't comfortable at all for such a long time, I don't think.
No.
I mean, Trudy's done interviews as an editor in a previous life. I've run football clubs and had to do speeches and things like that. But this was kind of different. This was us, like
putting ourselves out there. Absolutely.
And that's another one, putting ourselves out there. Like sometimes we talk about stuff and we kind of didn't want to talk about that stuff. Like Wendy particularly doesn't like to talk about the stuff, and and we force her to. But like putting ourselves out there in the world and kind of being up there for people to see and kind of
also criticize. And it is an act of courage, no matter what, whether it's publishing a book or publishing a podcast. It is an act of courage to put yourself out there, because you are, setting yourself up in a way for criticism or accolade, but it's usually not so much the accolades. Although, to be fair, we haven't had a lot of criticism. I mean, we've had tech issues, and look, hold our hands up for those. We're working, we do our best, but,
but I think
we just, but it is, and like I'm just remembering last year when we first put our actual recordings on video and actually put those out, and that was another level of putting yourself out there. Because apparently we're not 30 anymore.
We just mentioned earlier how we started when we were 21.
Stop.
Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I want to live in that world.
You can't hide it.
It's all there on YouTube.
Now. But I want to talk to that criticism thing, because I think sometimes, I mean, you take feedback, but criticism only has power if you give it power. I think so you need, like, and I think that's kind of something that we've been able to kind of go, we can stand up for ourselves and be who we are, and kind of go, that person,
without arguing,
without arguing, and let them have their opinion, and and you have the belief.
Takes a while to get there, I think.
Well, potentially, and the same goes for your books, right? You got to have the belief in your books. We were talking about that earlier, about rereading your books, and Wendy rereads all of her books all the time.
And look at her success. That must say something. And we never ever figured that out, did we? We never thought about it. But
no, I think we just learned that this morning.
Say something.
No, I think she loved your books, and we're kind of like,
I don't like them I don't like them when I publish them.
No, but
it has to be a little while down the track.
I think that's an important thing to mention too.
But rereading, you get the rhythm of the books and the series, and you get in tune with the characters. And for me, I think that's, you know, that's just an important way of researching, you know, your books, so you can start the next one, especially when you're 8 books in or something.
Does it still feel like yours, or does it feel like somebody else wrote the book when you're reading it after a decent amount of time?
I think a little bit of both.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. To be honest, I feel like it's someone else's book, and I'm always quite swayed by, wow,
Yeah,
who knew that I could write like that?
gosh.
Yeah,
I've actually just started going into audio, and I've had the first chapter back to listen to that, and I was telling the girls earlier that it actually blew me away. I was quite engrossed in it. I didn't want to switch it off. I didn't want to pause. I wanted to listen to that whole chapter from start to end, because I didn't remember writing all that stuff. I didn't, you know, I'd set up the whole town, you know, this is for a cozy mystery, set up the whole town. I didn't remember writing all of that. And I think actually that will help me write the next book, which will be book number 7.
Yeah.
Because some of that stuff I haven't mentioned again, or you know, have barely touched on. So yeah.
But I think you're over the last 6 years since we've been podcasting, your self-belief in you as a writer has come leaps and bounds. I mean, I think we all had the thought that we really weren't worthy. And I mean, we still have that. I mean,
I think a lot of people have that.
You know, like we all do. But I'm just saying, I think, you know, you can see that your confidence has grown massively. You know, and that will flow through.
It's the old story, though, isn't it? The proof is in the pudding. Like, you know, it's you've got books and we've got 300 episodes to prove that actually, you know, we can do it, kind of thing.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. Exactly.
But that doesn't mean we don't still keep growing.
No, exactly.
Because you got to think about the perseverance angle of that too. Like, we've all had ups and downs in our careers, and if any of us, there have been multiple times where we could have gone, no, this is it, I'm stopping, this is clearly not going to work for me, I don't know what I was thinking, I'm gonna become a plumber, right? Like, what is this malarkey?
I always wanted to be a plumber.
I
would have wanted to be a plumber. There
you go.
I could see you as a plumber, Wendy. I really could.
I've got the butt for it, let's be honest.
No. I mean, you would be the kind of trades that you'd get it done. You would be reliable and you'd get it done. And I think that's tremendous.
Thank you. That's a lovely compliment.
Anyway, I regret mentioning the plumbing thing now.
my mind went to the really gross stuff about being a plumber.
Yeah. I went straight to the bend over in the builder's crack. I'll be honest.
Okay, moving on. but the perseverance thing, right? Like, and it's that, I always think there's that picture or the cartoon that you see around, and there's like this person with a little pickaxe, and they're like, right, and they've dug this big hole, and you know, and they go, right, I'm going to give up now because there's clearly nothing here. And then in the dirt or in the rock, just a couple of inches from where they are is like the gold mine that they've been searching for. You know, you don't give up just before it's about to happen. And I'm kind of strongly of the belief that perseverance will get you where you want to go. You just have to keep moving towards it and keep going, and eventually, and it may not be necessarily exactly how you planned it in the beginning, but it will, you know, you'll get there.
Yeah, it's a mindset. We talk about mindset a lot, and I think mindset. I think Cher would understand where I'm coming from as well, and Trude, you've been working on this a hell of a lot, and Shah and me even, but I think success comes when you let that break go, you know, a little bit. Like I think especially Cher and I, because we've spent a lot of time together writing and talking and going to conferences, and I think both of us took us a while to understand that we could actually do this, and the perseverance and the belief of, you know, this is us, we've got this is our gig and we're good at it. That's really tough. But as soon as you take those breaks off, especially for me, as soon as I took that break off my mindset a little bit, I felt the success and I embraced it more. And that's not something as Kiwis we do.
And it's not about shouting it from the rooftops, is it? It's about telling yourself repeatedly that what you do is good enough and you can be successful at what you do.
And it sounds simple, right? But it's actually really hard. I remember last year I was doing this sort of mindset kind of coaching thing last year, and the coach was saying to me, you know, say I am worthy, and I was like, oh, I don't think I can. Like
No.
and it felt really hard. It felt like a hard thing to say. And now I can say it. Now I believe it. Now I love myself. I love my books. I am worthy. And that's a big mindset change. And so for anyone who's listening to this, who kind of struggles with the idea of saying that you are worthy, that is really something you need to start working on. Like that is the point. That is the place where you need to start moving if you want your career to get somewhere, I believe, personally.
I agree totally.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I also think negatives and positives. I think in this gig you have to be able to roll with the punches a little bit, and that's take all the so many negative. There's so much negative out there, and there's so much positive. So I think filtering through those, and if you're a sensitive person like I am, and you're reading the negatives, and it's just getting to you, you have to address those issues too. And that's a strength thing, and that's a mindset thing. And I think that's something I've learned as well. You know, going forward, just look at the stuff that suits you now, and just go, well, that's okay. That's not me. Push that back. You know, and it's a growth thing, and we aren't raised to do that growth thing. You know. Mindset totally blows me away, I'm telling you.
And isn't it interesting that we're talking about this after the literally hundreds of people that we've talked to, that it's not actually about what they're writing, or it's not actually even about the writing craft. So much of it is exactly what you guys are saying, is it's about the stuff underneath that, and it's about the why and the mindset and all that, and it's about actually doing it without actually knowing what you're doing as well, or being sure about what you know what you're doing, or experimenting, but giving it a go, I think, is so much. So there's such a big part of that in the people's success that we've talked to, that they're not necessarily hung up on the right way to do things, which is something that, you know, hands up those of us that are in the perfectionist, procrastinator area, which is basically underneath that is a fear that it's not worthy. So it all comes back, doesn't it? It all comes back to that
Self-belief, eh?
And it's but here's the irony, that you only can get that self-belief by doing something. Like it's an action that changes that. It's not a thinking it through. And that's the other thing that I've learned over the years, is that you can't think your way out of things, that you actually have to take the action, even if it's, I don't know, no matter what it is, creating an ad that you're not sure of. You have to do the right self-talk, but at some point you got to stop talking and actually start doing. And for us, we could have spent a year editing podcasts before we published. And so,
and there were sometimes we do a podcast and we go, oh, I don't know about that one, and Trudy would go, no, that's going up. You know,
or the other way around.
Or
to be
the other
fair
way
to
around.
her, to be fair to her,
it's like a book, isn't it? It's a constant surprise when people actually love it, and the feedback that you get is
and
so
sometimes
positive,
the ones that we think, oh man, this is great, and the other ones that we've been like, we felt like we've basically been on the psychiatrist's couch, all four of us on the same couch, and we're like, ooh. And they're the ones that we've got huge feedback of, that people really resonated and loved, and it was quite raw and often quite confronting for us, and very uncomfortable for some of the things that we talked about. And those are the ones that often resonate the most. So it's almost that imperfection is what reaches people.
Going back to conferences.
I think that's true. I think imperfection reaches people. I think, and it's the same with writing and characters. Who wants a perfect character? No one. Who wants a perfect author standing there being all smarmy? No one.
They're not going to get that from us, mate. I'll tell you that,
mate. Come to the wrong place for that.
But I mean, it's what you kind of like, there's that perfectionist person, you know, who wants to and not do anything until you have it right. And but I get that. I'm like, you know, there's a right way to do it. There's a right way and a wrong way to do things, and I want to do it the right way. And I'm having to learn that that's actually not true. Like that's my journey at the moment. I'm having to kind of just let that go and just do things and figure it out as the way as it goes. And what I'm kind of learning, I think, and I have learned over time as we're doing, people connect with the imperfect. People don't connect with the perfect and the exactly as it
Yeah.
should be, so
has that changed the way you write, Turtles? I mean, that your journey over the last sort of 6 years, you've been through quite a lot, ups and downs, moving house, sickness, and then all this mental health, you've been doing mental strength stuff. I was going to say mental health, but I meant mental strength. Has that changed the way you write?
Yeah, totally. And it's really interesting when I look back when we first started, some of the beliefs of what I thought my writing career would look like and where I would be in 6 years. I don't think it would have been where I am now, if you know what I mean. And so that, and at a certain point I had an epiphany that it was all about plot, and I changed, I learned all the stuff about plotting, and I thought it was going to do it a certain way. And then more recently, in the last year or so, I've kind of gone, actually, I think it's about character. And I mean, maybe it's a bit of both. Like, it's not, doesn't have to be one or the other, but I'm now currently focused more on my characters and creating really, really strong, kind of well-rounded characters. And that's not something that I on purpose thought about way back when, so I feel like and part of that journey towards it being about the characters in my mind is about me looking at myself and my emotion and my kind of self-belief, and then that became then about my characters in my books. It's kind of all part of the same thing.
Well, it helps you to see people in a different way, and your characters to us, I think, as authors, are people, are real people, not flesh and blood, but they have their own.
Are you less hard on yourself now, Trude? Because you're quite difficult. You're quite hard on yourself. I must have difficult. I meant difficult. I meant hard. It just
you meant difficult. You meant difficult. Don't even try. Don't backpedal.
What can I say? Okay, I'm owning it. No, but seriously. But you know what I mean? You've completely thrown me off track completely.
She was hard on herself.
You were quite hard, and you were quite, I want to do this, I want to do that. And that's all backed off a little bit now. Do you think that's open?
I still have things. I think I have things I want to do, but I used to feel like I'd be really hard on myself and I was doing something wrong, and then I'd be kind of judging myself, and that's just a spiral downhill into feeling like crap. And so it's a whole lot of work around, I make mistakes, and that's okay. That's learning, and that's moving, and then you can still move forward, right? Whereas thinking that you can't make mistakes, or you can only, you have to find the right way, and you can't do anything until you find the right way, is actually quite not a great place to be. And then judging yourself when you can't find the right way, or you do make a decision that you thought was right and it turns out to be wrong. Well, oh my God, that's not an awesome place to be. I can tell you that now. So that's kind of what I've learned over the time, is that, just be kind to yourself, be a bit gentle, be easy. It doesn't, it can be easy. It can happen without a struggle. We don't have to fight tooth and nail.
And you'll be a better writer for it.
I hope so. Yeah.
I mean, your writing's going well anyway, but you know what I mean.
I mean, and I got to a point where I felt like I was fighting to write. Like it was I had to force myself to sit down and write, and it became kind of like I'd gotten to this competitive mode where I was like, I have to do this many words a day, and if I don't, without really kind of thinking about the writing itself and or enjoying it at all. And I just know that there are a lot of writers out there who are in that mode. And for me, I've kind of pulled myself away from that. And now I just allow myself to enjoy the writing and get into it. And I get lost in the flow of the writing so much more now than I did before. And it's coming so much easier for me. I'm doing editing at the moment, and I'm loving it. And I would have, asked me a year or two ago about editing, and I would have complained about it and said how awful it was. So it's kind of all of it.
I think that's really encouraging that it can change. I think for a lot of us, we think if it's how it is now, it's always going to feel like that, whether good or bad, and it isn't.
No,
it doesn't have to. No. And again, it's all mindset. It's all looking at the way you're thinking about stuff and kind of saying, well, it doesn't have to be that way. Like things that I thought were inherently me, inherently how I had to be because that's just who I was, turns out they're not. And it was just a mindset and a belief structure that had come from my childhood or wherever. And
we're always reinforcing that, aren't we? We're always saying, I am this way. I am like this.
Isn't that
exactly
so true? Or why do things have to, like on a self-publishing level, things are changing. So why can't they stay the same? But I mean, life never stays the same. And life itself, like 6 years ago, who would have thought a worldwide pandemic, people are inside, like like
Mm.
we couldn't have written that,
No.
all of us. So I think
Mm.
what a wake up call on that one.
And I think,
Yeah.
and Cher, you'd be like this. We've learned to put our writing first. I think,
Yes.
mother, grandmother, daughter, wife. I think we're both the same, whereas we fit our writing around everything else.
Yeah.
And that was something I think both of us had to take a step to change. Is you like that, Cher, weren't you?
Well, I think we probably still do to a certain extent, but I think it's coming to the acceptance of your nature might be to nurture, but you have to look after yourself and your career, and that has to have pretty much pride of place, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And so you get to say no far more than you ever imagined you ever would, and be okay with it and not feel guilty or less guilty.
Yeah. So if I was going to,
that's part of perseverance too, right? Like learning to say no and learning to put your writing first. I think that's important. Yeah.
So if I was going to ask you, Cher, what you're really proud of, taking pride, what would you say?
That I listened to my friends, to you guys in particular, and
have you got other friends?
One or two.
Yeah.
And I tried something different. I went away from the genre that I thought I would write for the rest of my life, although lots of subgenres in that. But and tried the cozy mysteries, and it worked for me, and I love it. And it's actually a joy. I don't struggle the way I did with the romance, being a little tiny fish in that huge pool that really I couldn't gain traction. I still sell some romance books. I'm not going to say that they're absolute failures, but in the strength of my career, changing for me was the best thing I've ever done. And I never, it's not like I ever thought that would happen.
Yeah.
Was it scary at the time? Did you feel like you were taking
well, do you know what I felt was, and because this is in my nature and I don't think I could ever change this, I don't like waste. And it felt to me that I had wasted so many years writing all those other books, because I don't even know how many there are, but there's got to be like close to 20 of them. So
but they're always there, dude.
They're always there, but you know what? They're not my best work. No. And I can see that. I can see that looking in. And I'm quite open about that. And whilst it's annoying, that I don't have all of those books in cozy mystery so that I had a huge backlist there, it was just the line in the sand. And so now I'm going forward in a way that is better for me.
It's awesome.
What
a great realization. That, right? Yeah. Oh my God. You're killing it.
Also, that's hugely courageous, Cheryl, as well. That's really courageous to let go of that. No, it is.
I'm going to cry.
It's really courageous.
Please
because,
cry.
It's very, very difficult to let go of something and to kind of hop on a different track. It really is. So,
I'm really proud of you. I think you've just come leaps and bounds. It's so awesome. You're so confident in your writing now, and that's awesome.
I think, like I say, when you read something back, or as I say with the audio, and you listen to something and you're like really proud that that's your work, I think that's just
that's a massive,
priceless.
What about you, Shah? What are you proud of?
I'm really proud of the fact that I can have this conversation without feeling like the weak link. So before I had a real hang up about how I wasn't the one that was writing regularly, let alone full time, let alone publishing. And I've let that go. And that, to be honest, that's a really good feeling. But it's been a process. And I think what it was, a lot of it has been through the guests that we've had on as well. And recognizing that there's not a single person we've talked to whose journey as into author land has been basically a straight line or like a graph that's going up. Like they've all had these massive ups and downs and different things, and also recognizing that there hasn't been a single person on that hasn't second guessed themselves at times either. I think it's really fixed my head about how I had what I thought being an author should look like or was like, and that I wasn't like that, so why wasn't I? And it was really pride in letting go of of beating
Make-
myself up for the things that
Yeah.
I wasn't doing, and instead I turn it around and I feel very proud of what I am doing. So I think that feels really good, and I've got a good sense of this business. I really enjoy this business side of things. I really enjoy writing the more kind of introspective things. So nonfiction is probably a lot like that. Feels like I get into the flow with that, and I think that's probably a direction that I'll go in the future. But I will always be a romance reader, and probably a wannabe romance writer as well. But I don't feel, I feel really good about where I'm at, and also exploring other areas of creativity as well. I think is also super important.
Yeah.
To be well-rounded and to help with mental health, frankly, because as Trudy said before, when you're sitting there beating yourself up for not writing X amount of words or writing X amount of time, you're just on a train to nowheresville. You're never gonna, you can end up in a really bad loop. So yeah, I'm proud of that,
And
just
making
embracing
yourself
my
wrong.
strengths and not my weaknesses. I think so much of my
You're
life
very
has
hard
been
on yourself, eh?
spent trying to fix myself.
That's a really good idea. If you're someone who's out there and you're struggling with the perseverance, thinking that maybe there's a problem, and you're going to take a look at all the things that you're doing well. Like, who cares about the stuff you're doing wrong? Look through that list of all the amazing things you are doing or have done.
And it can start off small. So I started off, instead of writing a to-do list, I wrote a to-do list. And it's just a little tiny thing, but a little tweak like that can really shift your mindset. When I was in a particularly sad and anxious state a few years ago, and just this, and we know that to-do lists never end, but actually writing down what I had done as opposed to what I had to do, because I knew what I had to do because it was, a 15-page task list. But just seeing at the end of the day what I had done, that made a big difference. Even little things like unloading the dishwasher or whatever, still put that on there. I think it's the little things. That's the other thing I've learned. It's the little tiny changes, not the big massive, let's take a 3-hour block and write now thing.
I also think with you, Shah, too, working for other authors and the way that you do, and the fact that you're so creative with photography and graphics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, how much creativity can one person hold in a day, and actually utilize?
That's it. I think that's also a recognizing thing as well. Absolutely. Because there is only, and I mean, Trudy's and we enjoy deep work, and I think he talks about the 3 hours that basically we can kind of really do deep focus. And a lot of, I think, realizing that a lot of my 3-hour creative work was spent on that kind of thing. So I just, it's a process.
Got to be kinder to yourself, eh?
You do. But again, you learn this as you get older as well.
Yeah, that's true.
You just do. But I think for my biggest learning, I'd say it's the small changes. So yes, Cheryl made a giant change with her going from one genre. So that would be, considered a big change. But it's probably there was a little change under there as well, which was about, I don't know. There'll be a little change there too. A lot of little changes come in first.
Have you ever read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear? So he's awesome. Of course you have, Shay. I don't know.
And of course we haven't.
Yeah, Winnie and Cheryl. So I just finished. I listened to it on audio actually, and I
to listen to.
Yeah, and it's one of those books you can't listen to it. Like I listened to maybe a couple of chapters and then I had to stop because there's so much coming in. And I made my husband listen to it on the drive down to Oakuni on our holiday, and he loved that.
Yeah.
But do you know what he did though? Because anyway, but he said, but Atomic Habits, and there's loads of different things, but all of it's about small habits, small habit changes to do things. And so and a small habit change that my husband actually, because I made him listen to this chapter, is that now when he finishes with a plate, instead of just leaving it on the bench, he'll put it straight into the dishwasher. Like little things like that. And it's the same with our careers, like instead of you could one little thing every day, like maybe every day you make one change to a Facebook ad, or you approach one author to do something with you, or even just say hello, or do one post on social media, and it's making it into a habit. And so something like that might just help you be a bit more perseverant.
It's the little things. I was recently watching, it's very good, it's on Quickcast, Becca Syme, who I really have found tremendous value in learning about one's strengths and working with one's strengths through the Clifton Strengths. But she talks about closed loops and open loops in terms of productivity, and knowing that a open loop, because I think I spent probably 20 years beating myself up for getting so distracted by social media or so distracted by the internet. And I'm kind of on an intellectual level, I knew that they were programmed to distract us, but I always felt I should be better than that, and I think that's if you accept that you're not, and that it is actually an open loop and it's designed to keep you like a little rat still searching out the sugar in there and giving you a little taste, and that really helped me a lot. And what she says is to try, always experiment. She's not a yes or no, like a black or white, but it's made a huge difference. I'm writing again now. Yes, my work has slightly changed, so I've got more creative energy, shall we say. But I close the loop. So in other words, I turn the word on. That's the only thing I have open. I don't try and open Google or Safari or whatever, or my phone before anything else. And just accepting, instead of trying to fight it, just accept it. Put your Instagram app on the second screen on your phone. That for me was like, holy cow, suddenly,
it's not in your face.
Not there. You're not seeing those little numbers, a little red number, like, ooh, I've got people love me.
Must go check. Yeah. So these are all kind of tips for perseverance, right? To keep yourself
definitely
going.
Perseverance. Yeah. I think so. And I think the other thing is, I don't know, it's in 6 years of doing this, the market has changed a lot in terms of there's, literally millions more books out there now, but it doesn't mean that the opportunities are not still there. And I think it's really encouraging. And I think there's more, I see more and more good things happening for self-publishing than less. It's not a shrinking marketplace. I think
unless you're writing something really obscure, people love to read, and they, some people read many books a month.
That's right. And perseverance is key. I mean, I've just probably had a serious breakthrough a little bit that I've never had before, and that's, what am I, how many years in, so it just shows you,
Yeah. And I think the fact that now we can reach all these, I mean, I came from a traditional kind of advertising background, in that, you had to pay for, a newsletter flyer to go out in letterboxes, or you had to pay huge money for like organizing TV ads or anything. The fact that we can literally advertise for free. Now, so I know there's paid advertising, but you can get onto whatever and actually reach somebody. And yes, you might have that obscure book. Maybe you're not going to hit the USA Today bestseller list, but you might better find 1,000 readers for it.
Perseverance
blows my mind. It blows my mind.
I think we're all about perseverance, personally, us four.
And I think we are. But I would never have described myself as that. I was always that. I've got literally cartons of unfinished projects in my craft buckets, But
no, it's just
to me, perseverance is just not stopping, never giving up, and then
it doesn't necessarily mean finishing something to the very end. It means keeping moving. I think that's the forward momentum. Just momentum of some kind, even if it's in the wrong direction, it's still better than no momentum.
I don't know.
The wrong direction. Sometimes you can take a step back.
Well, the jury's out on that.
But that's the thing. I think it's good because I think we all come. I think it's a good thing to try. What works for some doesn't work for others, as we keep saying ad infinitum.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But the biggest
I think we've rambled on.
Is to finish your book.
Yes.
Absolutely. Finish your book, finish something. Start if you're struggling like I was, start with a short story, then go a novella, and then go a book, but finish something.
I think mindset massive. I think self-belief is huge. Like I said, that's really changed things for me.
And it'll feel like, I think and that you're saying, Wendy and Trudy, you're saying the same. It can feel uncomfortable at first if you're doing the self, like trying not to,
just little steps. You don't have to. It don't have to be big. You don't have to listen to videos and read screeds of books like some people I know. You can just basically
always with the digs, Wendy.
I wasn't never
always
said your
with
name.
the digs.
Never even said anyone's name. Not a word. Don't be so touchy, Trude. I wasn't giving you. I was just saying.
I think this is going down the wrong avenue.
No. Positivity. I was just saying, for me, little tweaks, just internal tweaks. So I haven't said them to the universe or anything like that. They're just my things that I'm trying, and we all do things a different way, right? That's how we learn. That's our gig. Basically, Cheryl and I wait for these guys to give us what we need to know, because no, I don't mean that in a negative way. What I mean is, you guys learn so well, and you guys then give us so much, but you give us the tidbits that we want, and that's the good part about it, because you'll go, oh, I hope did you read that, and we'll go, right, I'll get that information, like it's great. You're our dictionaries, encyclopedias.
But that's the thing, going back to the Clifton strengths, Trudy and I are learners and input and intellection, and that feeds, like we're like little engines that need that feeding in, and that's just what makes us,
it's brilliant. I love it.
Happy.
It works.
But work with your strengths,
Absolutely.
Get with other people that maybe have different strengths, so you can kind of, we've talked about author villages recently.
And we do. I just was listening to something talking about mastermind groups, and saying that the sum of a mastermind group is greater than the sum of the individual units. And I think that is so true. So I think that what we are as the Spa Girls is far, far greater than what we would have been individually trying to do the same thing.
I put my hand up now and say there's no way. I don't think any of us, if we had each individually started a podcast 6 years ago, it'd still be going now. Look, I just want to give us a little shout out credit here, because it is huge. It's a lot of work. And can I just say now, anybody that's considering doing a non-fiction podcast in order to sell fiction books, forget it, because it's not going to happen. You do not sell books through talking to fellow writers. Also, stop posting in writer groups about trying to sell your book, because you're not going to do that either. So just stop that. But
just let's get back on track.
But perseverance, man, we persevered through.
But I credit you guys a lot for my career success. Okay, I might write the books, but especially Shah, who's really helped me build. But you guys and your knowledge base and support of me, and it's always been there. It's a massive support for me to know that I've always had you three.
But you know what, Wendy? It takes you being receptive to listening, and I think that's a really thing about the people that we've had on like that, and they're actually receptive. Not that they're gonna just do whatever they're told, but they're open. And I think
I might. That's right. I might play the joker and the fool and be silly in that, but I completely understand.
No, you're just
that you guys have had my back from the beginning. Absolutely. It's been wonderful.
And going back to the author village concept, I think again, persevere until you find the right people to click with too, and don't. Because that's an act of courage, isn't it? Reaching out to other people.
I think, and don't shut yourself off. So that you aren't approachable either.
That's right.
It's awkward. Of course, it's awkward. Any new relationship is awkward. But if something resonates with you about somebody else, from somebody else, then maybe they could be your person. You just don't know.
Okay, so I'm going to round out with a final question. So where do you think we get? What's it going to look like for the Spa Girls in 6 years' time when we're up to episode 600? What's your crystal ball? How's that for an?
What does that make us? About 36?
Yeah, no, we'll be almost at our 40th birthdays in Wendy, so we'll be planning the parties at that point.
I don't know. I know we'll still be friends.
We'll still
and
be
I know
friends.
we'll be very important. We'll be a very important part of each other's lives. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if we keep going, whether we ease back a little bit and do it less, but I don't know.
I mean, podcasts have come and gone since we started, and that's just life. And like I say, it's a lot of work we get tremendous reward, but financially it's absolutely not. So, but I think
that where I was 6 years ago and where I thought we would be in 6, now, is not where I am, if you know what I mean. Like, and
It's
so
almost,
it's really hard for me
it's
to.
very hard. It's like a fortune cookie kind of thing, isn't it?
I know where I'd like to be. I mean, I'd like us to be up on the stage at some big amazing conference run by the Spa Girls saying thanks for joining us for the 3rd year, and
all you listeners and all you listeners have managed to come and see us in person
around us, with us, being part of the community.
We have talked about that, haven't we?
Yes. Watch this space.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Conference in the tropics.
I think we've done things a different way. We've done all these podcasts, and now we're going to look at diversifying with courses and stuff like that.
We do have a course coming up.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've had a tough year, to be honest, listeners.
But we'll get there.
We will get there.
Because we will persevere.
Because we're perseverance people. Is that a word? Perseverance people.
And the thing is, self-publishing is still going to be there, and there's going to be even more opportunities.
It's only in its
time. I have zero doubt about that. There's going to be other things. There's going to be serials opening up. There's going to be more and more independent writers getting picked up by streaming services like Netflix and that kind of thing. The stories are always going to be needed. So keep going.
Yep.
Oh, that's where I'm going to be in 6 years' time. One of my series is going to be on Netflix.
Oh, excellent.
Nice.
I
was thinking the new virtual reality service that's coming after Netflix, where it just pops up and you've got the characters acting as if they're in your lounge with you.
That would be particularly good for kind of like urban fantasy and sci-fi, where you can actually get those cool effects that they're very expensive to make, but that might be more accessible.
We're probably digressing a little bit, eh? Do you think? We are pride and perseverance.
She did.
So where are you? What about you, Wendy? Where do you want to see us in 6 years?
She didn't know.
I didn't say that, Trudel.
You did. You said we might or might not be podcasting.
I've got to be honest, I'm looking forward to the Spa Girls joint-owned beach house somewhere. Tropical.
Yeah. I just conquer the world, that's us.
I'll just put these on our list.
For us to check in on in 6 years' time. So I would just wanted to say finally before we go that, like, when I look at the words pride and perseverance, it's about mindset. Like, I know we kind of would try, but it is both of those words about having pride in yourself. Like, you choose that. You are the one who has pride in yourself. If you're not proud of yourself, there's no one else you can blame but you. So it's something that you work on for yourself and with yourself. And I think everyone can feel proud of themselves. I think you can come to that part. It might not be immediately, I don't know, but that's something to aim for. And perseverance is again something. If you stop before your time, that's again you. It's all on you. And I think that's a big part of self-publishing too. It's like it is on us. It's our responsibility to make things happen, and that's what we all love about it. And that's what we want you to love about it too, as our listeners. You be proud of being part of I don't know.
I think it's an extraordinary industry to belong to. I think you should be proud of being part of it.
And I think you should be proud of being a writer. That's a really
and I
tough
also
game.
think about the end. What you're giving to people is an escape, or it's a educational experience. But for fiction, it's an escape, and I think that's an enormously thing to be proud of. To give comfort to somebody else is a huge thing.
Yeah. 100%. It's awesome. Being a writer is awesome.
And so I just also want to say thank you to our listeners for 300 episodes worth of downloads and comments on Facebook and reviews, and coming along to YouTube and watching us put it all out there. Well, not all of it, not the full Monty, but we haven't got that.
Yes, I could have made you do that today. I'm just saying.
No.
So thank you so much, because honestly, without you guys there, we would be here, but we'd be just talking to ourselves.
And
nobody wants that.
Well, I mean, we would just be making our cafe and having chats. So at least with people listening in, we get a wider community, more people to talk to. Because quite frankly, Wendy's really annoying, and I need other friends.
That's really, 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 really hard.
Let's not finish on that though.
Okay, no, we have to talk about something else. No, I love you, Wendy. I love you guys. You're all awesome.
Yeah, I love you too.
Thanks for being here, people. See you next time.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. This is another episode of the Spa Girls podcast. I hope you listen again next time after this long-winded lesson and amazingness. All right. See you all. Bye.
Bye.